A very good morning to all the students online. So, it is a session 10 of Project Closure Ethics and Digital Management. In this current session, we are going to discuss the second half of Module 5. So, in this session, the details regarding the implications of new cutting edge technologies, the implications of higher order intelligence factors, which are all blended with respect to taking the projects into consideration, and how the projects can be enhanced furthermore or upskilled furthermore with the help of the external availabilities of various resources, and how it could be made sure that it is obviously going in the right track. So these are all the things we are going to furnish in this second half of the module 5. So before getting into this, I just start with the case. There are a lot of n number of corporates which are all data driven, and the corporates or the organizations which are all people driven, which are all process driven, are all preparing themselves to get updated to get into data driven mechanisms. So in this case of choosing any one out of these three, people driven or process driven or data driven, so the utmost optimistic option is first option, that is option A must be data driven. This must be suitable for all across all the people who are all into the field of development, testing. So socially, culturally, and all other factors taken into consideration, data-driven could be an optimistic option for making the entire projects into consideration, which is not getting into occasional indifferences. It might be getting into a zone of acceptability and credibility too. So the ultimate credibility and profitability lies in data-driven, which has to be accepted because it is coming across all the obstacles and giving you a clear cut information where the feasibility report, the stability, the overall acceptability, and then it is getting into confined reporting. Everything becomes a practice which is configured earlier. So, this is the point of discussion in this session. So, whenever we are employing an external agent called an intelligence factor, it is something as seventh sense or eighth sense. It is keep on nurturing towards the updated versions. So we have industry 8.0. Slowly, industry 4.0 was the futuristic option when it was around 2019 and 2020. It was a huge paramount for us to get into that 4.0. Now we are nurturing towards N.0. It is getting towards the industrial ailments and industrial trademarks. Everything is nurturing towards its updations. We need a version, new version. We cannot exhibit the same version which was the previous procedures. So obviously, I must be in a terrible situation to change my version because the older version will no longer help me out in supporting the scenario. So the patterns, the prediction, the acceptance, the consistency, everything to be changed over. And finally, when it is giving me a contribution, it must be affordable and available. At the same time, it must be configurable and it must have utmost transparency. So, unless and otherwise, if the opportunities are shaded to me, it should not have a gray shaded area. It should have a open transparency, and that open transparency must reveal all the informations, irrespective of any kind of failure or success. It must have a throw of knowledge. That throw of knowledge where we can acquire, where we can learn, where we can earn, and both the learning and earning phases comes together, and finally it is filamenting. It is acting as an instrumental factor for us to motivate ourselves and get into a new ventures or a new beginnings. So this is the first initial stage of an intelligence factor coming in, and it is giving us a factor which is nowhere expected, which is nowhere predicted. All of the sudden it comes to us and start occupying us. And now without this, I cannot take even a single step in my progress, which will made me, which will is going to make me, and which has already made us to all the categorizations or getting into a nullification factor. So the employability scenario. untiring the objectivity and vigilance. So the entire objectivity and vigilance are all categorizations coming under a proper delivery, coming under a proper tool oriented approach. We have object oriented approaches. We have based upon the services which are all shared using softwares and getting adapted to these enhancing abilities. And I am into a triple S factor in this particular frame. First one is service, second one is success, and third one is sustainability. So once after the service as a systematic success, it is clearly making me a scenario. It is clearly configuring me a platform that it is going to give me a success. It is well known. It is going to be a systematic success. Is again well known. But what kind of sustainability it could give, and that sustainability is what the major people are expecting today. For which we need a decentralized platform, and that decentralized platform is what the project expectations today. When industries or, as I told, industries are approaching towards new versions, we have numerical control machines. We have all kind of machining process or done in a single machine, which is which is cost worth thing of about 4 crores to 5 crores. It is eating the employability of about nearly 500 to 1000 employees. If I depute around 10 machines, it is eating the employability of the whole industrial people who are all involved in the low level, middle level, and the top level. Obviously, it is going to grab the opportunities of the one who is going to come up in the queue. Slowly, the queue reduces, and what point of time the queue will be zero. So, the ideology behind this intelligence factors is because of making all the combined efforts, all the systematic efforts, all the target performances, how the task is being identified. So I cannot make a adjustment, or I cannot make a compromisations here because of making intelligences into control. It is going to be a concurrence, it is going to be acceptance, and it is going to withheld with some tolerances. And based upon all these sum up of activities, it is going to be a summative assessment. We have three kinds of assessments: summative assessment, formative assessment, and initial assessment. Summative assessment will be done at the end of the project. Formative assessment will be done in the mid of the project, and the initial assessment will be done before getting into the project. So these three assessments to be done, for which I need the clear cut objective of the project. The project must have the continuous objectivity. So both the objectivity and subjectivities are mattering a lot, because the project is clearly stating a statement called, what is the difference between objectivity and subjectivity? Subjectivity is the thrust area of the project. Objectivity is which, what is the route in which I'm going to make the project to travel. So the traveling pathway of the project is nothing but an objectivity, and that objectivity must have proper monitoring. I need to get a proper surveillance. It is to be properly tracked. It is to be properly noted down with what are all the points we have as a backlog. So those backlogs to be identified, and those pitfalls to be identified, and then it has to come with a new approach, and that new approach is nothing but a version N.0. So that N.0 version is to be identified. How many versions I can go? What is my limitation? Is there any furthermore concurrence I need to get from the remedial people? I need to make sure it very clear that what are all the approaches I can ensure, how flexible the entire system can be made. These things and all to be noted down. This is what this frame is insisting us. So coming to the next frame, cloud computing and project management. So as the curriculum speaks a lot about ethics, digitalization, privatization, liberalization, globalization, domestic into global scenario, transition, etc. These things are all in putting together. I'll be coming to a particular automation, and that automation will be the multifunctional approaches of a project. Though it could be a tedious process, though it could be a complex process, but unifying it, how we are creating a profile. Actually, we do have created our profile, loads and pages of pages to contents and contents together. But what, as a teacher, what we can make a profile is. As a teacher, what are all the responsibility to us? Writing a book, writing an article, creating a certification, attending a meeting. Why I can't unify all these data putting together? What is the remedy I can give in order to make sure the entire entity can be made together? By creating a profile like this, why we cannot ensure every interviewer or every interrogator can see all my information, relevant information in a single link? It is not a tough process. Hardly if you are someone sitting for about 1 hour or 2 hours, you can unify all your commitments, all your achievements, everything, and putting in a common link. If the link is opened, I can see every record of you. It is totally open, it is totally accessible, it is totally viewable. Rather than if I go with the file which is having all my certificates, turning pages and pages of certificates pages and showing a proof for them. After referring it about 10 to 15 minutes, if I'm showing a proof for them, the interviewer will extend the process. Actually, the process of interview should not go more than 10 or 15 minutes. It is like a meager discussion. If I'm having around 10 years of experience, if I'm moving to some other institution for a new position or a higher order position, I should not talk more than 15 minutes. It is a discussion. What is your expectation? What was your current salary? And what is your expectation? How the profile is manipulated and what is the recent achievements? Everything to be numbered, everything to be listed. So, how cloud computing is helping me a lot. So, for which I just share a proof in chat box. So, when I'm making all the clarity with respect to a particular elements, the cloud computing in project management is giving me a clarity on how this happens, how this getting implicated, and what are all the functions in which the link can be attained. So I have posted a link in chat box. It is my profile actually. So when the recruiter asks me any kind of information, the link will get updated then and there. Even if I'm sharing the data to the recruiter, if I need something to be changed, I can change from here. It will not affect the recruiter who is witnessing this link. So it is the initial phase of computing. Actually, what I think or what I suggest is, rather than sending it as an attachment, in this particular link, it is about 30 pages of my today's commitment. So, what are all the things I'm doing? What are all the activities I'm getting involved in? Academically, socially, culturally, technically, right from A to Z of Hariharan will be there in this link, which is what expected from the recruiter's end. So, if I need these kind of implications, how this could be hosted, how it is possible? Is the link have any deadline? The link has been created in the year of 2020. So once after consolidating all my certifications, achievements, paper, document evidence, right from my SSLC till date, till my second doctorate, what are all the things available? It is cloud computed. It is acting as a cloud link which is available in major recruiters' hand. They have bookmarked this. Just by bookmarking my profile link, they have all openness in making the profile getting available in online. It is available in all the online platforms and giving me a connect that what are all the networks I can build or construct across this academic society. Academically speaking, I have n number of connections across the global or across the domestic area, both global in overseas and domestic area, which are all happening because of having a computed profiling. I need to be a part of cloud. If you type my name in a search engine, it must have some ready data which are all latest updated. If my name or a phrase of my identity gets into a search engine, it must have a fulfilled data which is should manipulate with the latest updations too. So for which I need to be a part of cloud. It is like a self promotion. It is like a self identity creation. The strength of the identity is highly achievable only if you are being a part of this computing, even though if you don't like this. So I cannot search for all my KYCs, all my documents, all my proof for every appraisal. Year on year, we'll be having an appraisal, and every appraisal we can go with this link without carrying a single bit of paper. I go empty handed, stand in front of an appraiser, showcase this particular link in a projector, and make them understand what are all the things I have done in the previous year and the current year, because everything is numbered. If you start opening the link, you will be having lots of derived links in between the passages. What is my latest article? What is my latest book? What was my latest certification? What was the latest course I have completed? How many events I have participated so far? It is around 161 in count. All those 161 counts, I have an inner proof parallel to a Google Drive link. So when you are consolidating like this, it is easy for me to refer. Suppose if you ask me a proof for a 130th event, what you have attended in the year of 2023, show me the proof. I just open the Google Drive link, type 131. Obviously, the proof of the respondent corresponding event will be there. So the responses, anyone, even a layman opening this link can get a self explanatory profile. This is how the profile must be. Actually, this was taught to me by my master who gave a clarity on computing. My computing master has given me a very good idea on how to collaborate your profile with the latest updations. If I post this link in any of my social media, the citations will increase. The metrics will increase. The rubrics, what I have developed, will have a maximum reach. So, these are all the things I can implicate. The implications of these study are all reflecting starting from here. So it took me nearly 2 to 3 hours for making this. After that, just an updation. Adding a row, updating the latest event, and corresponding proof has to be uploaded. So, what are all the events we are making? But everything has to be exposed. I cannot say how many events I'm participating. I cannot say it orally. If I expose it like this, the link can be converted to a QR code, and the QR code can be pasted in any of the appraisal board. The QR code can be scanned and they can know about me rather than telling it orally. I need not talk much. Why? Because the profile has to speak a lot, not we. This is how major people are developing their inputs on how computing plays a vital role in my academic life. So, for your suggestion, I suggest everyone online to bookmark this link and have it as a template and start working on your profile also like this in order to ensure what are all the things I can enhance in order to make a project live. If you are being a part of this project, you should know what are all the contents you are having. You should know what is your strength and weakness, for which everything is manipulated here. It is an open link where we can analyze everyone to be the part. It is also available in our websites. It is getting cited by maximum visitors. Then it is getting implied. So, by making this as a cloud one, what are all the benefits? It is easy for making a share with n peoples at a time and creating a schedule or a task. I can monitor how many people are visiting the same link at a point of time. I can evenly note down how many individuals are seeing the portfolios at a point of time. I can enhance how many people are currently monitoring it. Currently, it's about two viewers viewing my profile link. So, this particular eligibility, this particular categorization, this particular eligibility of making the benefits which are all cloud computed, which are all in between a particular activity, which are all most widely utilized in order to make sure in this particular class of making elements into consideration. So, when you are trying to colloid all the elements which are all cultural, which are all technical, which are all accessible, which are all scheduled, updated from one point to another, making them travel from real time collaborations, giving a clarity on cloud actions, hostings, advantages, disadvantages. Everything is between from one point to another. So there are people accessing the task, relevant or irrelevant, but they need to have it as a progress updation. That is, maximum people are failing in it. Progressively speaking, they are not updating. You might have done so many contributions to the academic or the corporate societies where you are sticking on with. But whether you are really updating it, how to update it, and how to make the updates to get into the realistic of a situation, how those scenario can be dealt on with the benefit, and finally it is getting into a real time collaborations or sticking on with the real time achievements, whether it is really attainable. These are all the questions I need to ask for my understanding. So once after this, as a service, as a constructive architecture, as a constructive framework, if I start accessing on it, if I start working on it, a long term commitment, the cloud will deal with the latest updations which are all pending, which are all still outstanding, for which I need to start with a subscription. If the subscriptions are more, if the accessibility is more, obviously the monthly tracking, the monthly contributions, the challenges, the kinds of participations, new approaches, new networks, everything will be easy for us. Why? Because the starting phase will be difficult and make us to get complicated challenges for collaborating these elements. Once after making it as a collaborative element, it becomes easy for me to get into any kind of softwaring. Slowly, I can make my own blog and my own websites into the action, which are all expected from the consumer's end. They need to know about you. What is a right channel? What is a formal channel? Ethically, legally acceptable. Formal channels are more in number, but we are not making clarity in making the consumers to understand who am I. Because of this lack of transparency, majority of consumers are avoiding us. Majority of consumers are not in a position to address us. So they are not getting proper addressing. In this scenario, they are going away from the market, and this is how the business opportunities are lost. And then finally, the option of closure is coming into play. I will be in a situation, I'll be in a pressure to close this project because of lack of progress. Either the progress is not present or the progress is not exposed. Both the things are happening in majority of projects. But when it comes to the point of action, it has to be made sure with the latest applications which are all driven, which are all contributing, which are all here. The points of data will be there as a data driven approaches. Why? Because the data is only going to speak, not a consumer or the client or the marketer or the business person. So no process involved, no people involved. Obviously, data is going to self enhance the profile. How much humans, how much capability, what is a capable profile, whether the profile is productive or not. For the last 1 year, what is the productivity you have shown? So rather than explaining the appraiser for more than 1 hour, sitting together, referring pages and pages of contents together, I can make this as an access to everyone. If the appraiser accessing this gets a doubt, only those doubts will be clarified. It becomes a time consuming process. And obviously, I can, by increasing the access, I can save time. It is economically feasible. It is a go greening, like a go green environment. We are, reducing the paperworks. So we have majority of, credibilities and advantage, meritorious advantages in this particular accessing of cloud software. So we are making emphasizing on all the fields, not only in this academic support. We are making it as a communication services. We are making it as a telecasting one. We are making eligibilities in exposing social connects, how much networks it can be implemented, and what is the multiplication factor in which the profile can reach a very good level. Everything is coming into the consideration. Not only on a particular sector, it is helping out in across all the sectors. Coming to the project collaboration. So when I'm getting an action, which are all nullified, which are all making all the available elements to get into this group. It is not like a easy task or the initial task. It is to be integrated with all the real time connections, and those real time connections will be made sure for all the access irrespective of time changes, manpower changes, availability of employee, presentism and absenteeism together, and who are all the active participants, and how the access are improved by gaining lot of new access coming into the system, and how is the reliability measured, whether the subjectivity is connected to the reliability. I need to note it down. If the reliability is aware, the reliability is made sure with access to everyone gets everything, means obviously it is a social offering. If there are restrictions, obviously I cannot move easily with respect to a enormous scenario. So when I'm trying to access a particular data which is data secured, which is I mean a protocol oriented, which is obviously identified or diversified with the existing data, and how I could measure this deviation, since the data is diversified from the other existing current scenario, it is having some unique categorizations. How it is could be identified, how the deviations could be measured, and what are all the reasons in which a smart room or a smart platform or a upcoming platform which is so very competitively advantageous platforms can be developed, for which I need to strengthen the subjectivity and as well as the reliability parallelly. If both the things are increased parallelly, I need not worry about the scenario which is going to give me a backlog. I need not worry about the backlog because I'm sound enough. If this is not available to me, I'll go for next. If the options are widespread, if they have multiple options, I can go for n number of options because everyone is capable of taking me. And this is how a HR manager treats an employee. Whether the treatment is worst, I put paper and get into the next level of updations, and then I can go for furthermore accessibility of job opportunities and accessing myself into any kind of system. Slowly, the adaptability changes. The expectations of the employees changes. Expectations of the organizations are also changing. So, as per the development and as per the latest expectations, I'm molding myself in order to be the part of the software access. So once upon a time, it was nowhere a software is getting in. Slowly, physical documentation was ruling the market, and then partial softwaring and partial physical documentation. Now it has become a fullest softwaring and fullest documentations done on online, and for which we are capable of making all the things. And finally, we are enhancing ourselves by getting exposed to so many courses and then into the system, and then I'm making a milestone in my profile. This milestone in my profile is not a one day's task. It is an integrated compositional task. Comprehensively, it has attained a elemental condition or a constructive condition in order to identify whether this technique is eligible and acceptable to me, and then only I'm adapting this technique into the system. It is trialed for more than 2 to 3 times, and then only out of the based on the outcome of the trial, it is getting into the first level of inputs. This is how the data is so very polished. The data is so very filtered. It has been exposed to so many X-rays and scans, and then only it is getting into the system. After doing so many scanning, after doing so many X-rays, and after doing so many conditional checkings, then only if the data is coming in, obviously the data is going to be so very reliable and protected. So the protected version is what the employee is able to access. So each and everything it is ruling us. Slowly, after making this, if it is going to be a highly advantageous, parallelly I'm going to have some limitations too. So when I'm considering or when I'm addressing those limitations, it may have some sensitive content. How to identify those sensitive content by giving some indication. For example, if I have some codings, how to encode and decode it by using some symbolic representation. For example, if I use ampersand symbol for encoding and decoding, the ampersand symbol is going to be a prefix element for a secret, trademarks, or sensitive content. So those codings which are all prefixed by an ampersand symbol must not get into open access. It must have some implications, so it is to be protected. So we do have some symbolic representation, asterisk, ampersand. So those symbolic representations can be included in coding so as to indicate, infer that these symbolic representations are, placed here in order to safeguard this information. So whenever the servers are so very vulnerable, so very open to crack it, it is obviously a problem. It is going to be a digital theft too. Rather than a physical theft, digital theft are increasing in numbers nowadays. How to ensure this? How to become a private oriented accounts? If I make it as a open account, obviously anyone can access my name, profile, everything, and then they can cheat anyone across all the social media platforms. We are saying it. Similarly, for an individual, it is a huge problem. Try to think it out when it is going to be for an industry, when it is going to be for a organization which is having bulk and bulk of information. So if someone is hacking my industrial websites or industrial blogs or a social media platforms or links, what are all the things we can expect in nearby future? So how far it is acceptable and how far it is favorable, it is having some dark shaded areas too. So how to be away from those dark shaded areas? It is wide. It is so very smart. It is taking a wise decision. It can be implemented as a systematic approaches rather than giving it to an open platform. And when it is going to be an open platform, what are all the contents to be presented and how the contents are differentiated, which can get into this blog and which can not be get into this particular blog, and what are all the differentiation factors. For example, if I cannot show my entire turnover of a company with the whole balance sheet and whole account statements, every tally software, everything we are implementing, and then it is getting into an open statement. That open statement cannot be uploaded in website. It is a sensitive content. So, for example, if I can show organizational structure in the open content, this is what a difference I'm going to identify. So, differences between an organizational structure and as well as the balance sheet or account statement, profit and loss account statement. If I'm going to reveal the statement in website, it is problem. I cannot fabricate this because it is a statement. I'm going to submit it to the associative body for getting approval. So those things cannot be uploaded in the open area. This is what the risk is uttering here. So these are all the examples given for this kind of titles. When you are getting these kind of questions, have this examples well before. So applications is the one which is going to drive your answers towards the destiny. So those applications to be noted down strongly, and it has to be connected with the questions of, responses, and then it has to be critically assessed with your perspective. This is how the answer must be. So when I'm making this cloud into reality, what are all the hindrances and what are all the blocks so that I can jump on these hindrances and I can bypass it? It is bypassable actually. Hindrances are not dead ends. Hindrances are bypassable ones. So when I try to bypass these kind of potential problems, I need to have more very resilient towards this particular problems and making a very good availability of data and how many gateways I have, whether it is a protected way of procuring things. Taking example of payment, it is having n number of gateways. It is getting our data, expiry date, card number, expiry date, and then only it is going to give a data on OTP, and then we are making the payment. So nearly 3 to 4 level of screenings are available for giving a payment. But provided there will be a checkbox, save the card information for future evidences and future payments. That checkbox will be maximum enabled by default. But we should disable it before making the payment. So this is a small level of examples where we can ignore. These are all the things we might not have an awareness. We might not, note it actually out of the fastness and payment. We might not be in a position to note it down because it is going to be a small issue. Why to save this? What is the reason of disabling it? I don't know. Just by boycotting this, but just by ignoring this, I'll be in a situation to come out with the problem or a issue which is challenging me, rather than coming it out without, cleansing or without making a shift. That shift is what necessarily, mandatorily to be noted down. The job shift has to be noted down, the access to be noted down, the waiting time, the waiting access, the switching over time, the shifting time to be noted down. And then these things are going to be the bypassable hindrances. And then finally, it is going to identify the mission of this particular critical problem. The mission could be on that particular time tenure. For example, if it was exam is going to be from 10 to 1, that 3 hours is our mission. The prayer to 10 o'clock and post by 1 o'clock, it is not a mission at all. 10 to 1 is what the mission timing for every student to appear into the examination, crack the examination with the very good grading. It's going to be a critical evaluation phase. In this phase, even if you are not prepared, how you are tackling, how you are challenging, how your portfolio is so very ready to you, how you are going to project it. The projection of answers in the question paper by analyzing the questions asked in the question paper and by posting the relevant answers in the answer booklet, by projecting your talent, acquisitions, everything, you can score a bit, and that scoring is what your outcome. And that scoring is nothing but outcome based inputs. This is how a treatment of any kind of critical situations to be done. For every student, exam is going to be a critical situation. For every worker, employability, compensation, appraisal is going to be a critical situation. And for every top level people, crisis, economical instability, inflation, deflation is going to be a critical situation. So for everyone, there might be a critical, crisis or a bias. But volumetrically, it is differing a lot between you and me, between you and someone, or between the top level delegates. Volumetrically, it is differing. But anywhere, everywhere, across all the situation, expectedly or unexpectedly, we will have these hindrances which could be bypassable based on our smartness. So coming to the operations. So when I try to operate it with respect to a traditional system and as well as the operational software systems, both are furnishing some inputs on the ideal elements. Those ideal elements are like numbered, how the startups could be identified, and whether it is going to be a small scale business or a middle level business. That is, as I told, volumetric efficiency, and how the companies are diversing with respect to, virtual and traditional. Virtually, there are some companies. Virtually, there are some stock markets. Virtually, there are a number of business accessed. We have warehouses called as virtual warehouses, which is what Industry 8.0 is insisting us. As I previously pointed out, Industry 8.0 is industrial appliances and industrial requirements are accessible in Industry 8.0 with the vision of making everything under virtual. Even a fellow working in a firm can also get a work from home task. They can access it by giving a portal, by giving a login credential. They will get a chance of getting a work from home rather like a IT guy. This is how the firms are planning. It might happen in nearby future. We might not be sure. By 2025, the vision of India's industrial revolutions are upcoming. And by the bandwidth of 2025 and 2030, there might be some transmissions. And those transmissions and will have a digital transformation, will have a drastic elemental across all the projects. With respect of any kind of business, we might have tremendous changes. Those tremendous changes are date oriented or money oriented or progress oriented. It could be of any kind of oriented things, but we are expecting a change. We are expecting a transition. We are expecting a platform which is highly notable, which is, payable, notable, and then it is accessible in the finalization. So once after understanding this complex ecosystem, how the significant rate can be nullified and slowly into either a hypothesis, alternate, or null. So organizational requirements, internal and both internal and external influences, dependent factors, and logistics functions. So for a project manager, every ecosystem to be made user friendly, every individual system in this particular blog of project management should be lesser complicated, and it has to be having a significant remark on each and every stage where the footprints are placed. If I run through this phase, I should have a notable phase, I should have a notable name just in a particular zone. If someone is uttering my name with the designation, with the specialization, the particular set of people must have an awareness towards me, must have a clarity towards me and how they are remarking me. So the maturity phases, stakeholders conflicts, attainability of, political scenario and technical scenario at the same time, and then the repeatability to be avoided. The design has to be unique with respect to the previous one. And once after making these kind of activities, what about the external environment is going to treat us, and what is the support they are going to give, and what are all the consequences they are going to reveal, how the policies are framed, whether the policies are one time integrated or multiple integrations or multidimensional integrations. Suppose if I fail in adopting any of these points, what I have uttered so far, whether I have another chance. If there is no chance, what is the reason and how I'm going to away from the market? When I step out of this market, what is the consequences I'll be facing? So these many questions are arising if I understand, if I try to understand this ecosystem. Everywhere we have an ecosystem, economically friendly or user friendly or accessible. Everything we have a friendly, approachable capabilities. I can learn more if I have a ecosystem. I can practice myself. I can fix myself of where I'm going to stand. I can position myself if I have a ecosystem anywhere. Even in your home, you can have an ecosystem. In your workplace, in your study place, in your, chit chatting area, with your friends, you can have an ecosystem. But when it is coming into a project, formal way, but when it is slowly transiting towards a formal approaches, ecosystem will have a cyclic impressions. And that cyclic impressions is going to reveal you how many times you can understand what is success and how many times you can mark what is success is, how to define the success and failure, what is a mark do you give, how to increase these marks. Just for an example, for all 10th grade and 12th grade students of Tamil Nadu, we are giving a grade of passing like 35 percentage. Slowly, if it is raised up to 55 or 60, 60 will be the minimum passing marks, and slowly, if it is rising up to 75, will be the first class, and 85 will be the first class with distinction. If I increase like this tremendously, the national education policy it is uttering us a lot. 2022 summit, we had a huge discussion with all the delegates of academic supporting people, ministries of higher educations, that is both in central and state. They are having n number of HRD ministers. Everyone is insisting on us to increase the quality of education. So considering education as a project, if I do this as a change maker, if I do this, a significant change will be there in the quality of education so that every individual will progress his or her progress in such a way that how they can increase their value, value chaining. It becomes a chain. If I hit on the first node of the chain, it will surely have a reflection in the 10th or the 100th or the 1000th node of the same chain, which will remarkably make a notable change in the system. This is how project is also expected from the consumer's end. As of a student is concerned, it is very, very clear and easy for them to crack this minimum criteria. But what about the maximized criteria? If I increase the benchmark, obviously everyone will start, venturing into it. They will start exploring more. They will find a better way for them to understand what is exactly the problem is. How the dependent and independent factors are all available. How the distributions are happening. How the sensitivities are happening. What are all the, lack of issues and lack of maturity phases. And then into the system of making all the categorizations into a project. So here I need to understand the workforce automations. I need to understand the capability scenario. I need to know what is the reason in which the elements and the phases are getting integrated rather than standing alone. If I stand alone, what is my success? If I integrate, what is my success? And then I need to understand what are all the amenities I can afford with respect to availability of the project. So once after noting down, these are all the reasons in which the failures can be predicted under three criteria: economy, real time activity like collaboration and communication, and then top level people as disputes and impact. So the cost will be from the lower level, the communication collaboration failure will be in the middle level, the disputes and the impact on credibility will be in the maximized top level. So it is like a funnel bottleneck. It is the bottleneck is going to give me a problem where it is stringently pressurizedly getting in. Even after coming out or getting in, it is becoming a problem. Once after getting in, it is having a broader perspective as like a bottle. By entering, it is having a utmost competency. But after entering, it is having a huge space where they can accommodate anywhere, first come, first served. Similarly, when it is coming out, it faces a struggle. But after reaching out, it is having an open surrounding where we can have any kind of problem or any kind of situations or any kind of solutions. But only that portion, bottleneck, is what the problem is. The projects are having n number of bottlenecks. How to avoid those bottlenecks? Because of inadequate centralization and decentralization. Inadequate protocols. They don't have any pre and post thinking. Because of these protocols, the majorities of projects are extended. For everything, we need to get an authorization. For everything, we need a access towards boss. That boss is having another superior. So it is having a derived superiority and derived, bosses. And those derived communication is giving the clear cut information. If it is going to be an understanding, obviously it is ending up in mess. So, how many possibilities in which the projects can fail? And based on the possibilities, it is going to give me a solution, and that solution will be away from bias. Once after getting a solution away from bias, it is 50% to 60% done. What about the remaining 50 to 40 percentage? So suppose if my project is giving 55 percentage of efficiency in the first cycle of performance appraisals, suppose in the second cycle of appraisal, if the same project is going to give me a 45 percentage of approach, the same 45 percentage of approach will have a tremendous approaches which are all dispute oriented, which are all constructive or destructive methodologies, which are all strategy or non-strategy oriented. Both are, as like a coin is having two sides, a project will also have a two side, either a critical or non-critical, either a 55 percentage or 45 percentage. Predominantly, what is a majority will be considered. So slowly, if these level of volumetric efficiencies are measured, obviously the upcoming people will also expect the same. They cannot accept with the poor remarks. They also need the same top level attainments and achievements of initiations, and that satisfaction and dissatisfaction to be noted down. So once after this failure assessment, I can attributes of business organizations and operations will be identified with the set level of attributes. It is like a parametrical or non-parametrical attributes. We can segregate on these two. The parametrical attributes can be of set of known population attributes. Non-parametrical attributes will be like unknown population. Suppose in a project, I'll identify a problem which is more number of people involved, and I can approximately tell what could be the population of this project. In some projects, I cannot easily define because the population might be unknown. I cannot easily judge. So, if the population is unknown, sampling becomes easier. The testings becomes easier. If the population is known, sampling will not be easier. Why? Because in some cases, sample will be equal to population. If the sample is equal to population, I might be in a position to go for the deep rooted cause analysis. The testings will be widened. The results will be micro level approaches will be there. If I go for a micro analysis, it becomes a headache for me, and I cannot justify the outcome of the project. Why? Because nothing here in this field is called right or wrong. Anyone can take up the any project and they can justify the outcome of the project based on their experiences in the project. For which I have a system. It is just a system. It is not a rule to be followed. It is a system which is facilitating you to complete the entire projects on time. It is just a facilitator. So that facilitator is what project management is, and for which the derived facilitators are ethics and digital management. So when I try to facilitate the project with these information, obviously the attributes are all parametrically or non-parametrically connected with me. It will easily extend for furthermore definite times and indefinite times. Even if it is extended for indefinite timings also, no, don't worry, no problem. It can be continued with the different approaches and different scalings. That is how it is capable of handling by n number of people. Suppose if you are doing a project for 3 years, if you are stopping, if you are going away, if I come as a fresher, if I can take the project, I can run it on a smooth factor because everything is self driven, data driven. If it is going to be a people driven, obviously, if someone is coming as new, he or she will not be in a position to continue the project. Since it is going to be process driven, it can be partially done. This is what the difference is. If it is a data driven project, even a stranger coming in can adapt to the project within a day. If it is going to be a process driven, adaptation is furthermore extended. If it is going to be people driven, adaptation is highly impossible. So the last factor, the people driven habitual action is still somewhere in some organizations. Suppose if I take 100 organizations, around 10% of organization is following this. Around 10 organizations are in people driven. My aim in making the such, I mean, problem solving is to eradicate the 10 to wholesome 100 of data driven. And there are organizations having process driven too. That is also partially acceptable, but it has also to be avoided. Slowly, it is to be transited. So all 100, if I take 100 company, all 100 company must be data driven. So that mitigation and that transformation is what the expectations today. If it is going to happen in the nearby future, and if everyone is going to be following or running behind the data, it is to be made integrated and it is to be available in a cloud. If it is not available in a cloud, obviously I need to change in a repetitive manner or change in a dynamic manner. So if it is not done in a dynamic manner, it is to be cleansed with some data inclusions and data piracies to be avoided. And after all, making a screening, it is then furnishing all the details which are all relevant to it. So slowly I can manage the skills and knowledge which are all acting as a constraints towards my projects. So I can manage the skills, I can manage the items, ability to plan the projects and execute it properly. And obviously the control, the nodal controls of the projects can also be identified. And the ability to guide, as I told, the magic, the guide one, the center part, that is MAGIC, guide. The guidance to be known, the influencing to be known, and then communications to be done with the proper masterminding and advocating. So this is how magic is getting into a constraints of projects and making it as a zero. So if I identify the right people for making all these activities, obviously the project is half done. And slowly I can reach the successfulness of the project with the meager inputs also. Rather than my contribution will be lesser compared with the system's contribution. And this is how the nature, the knowledge, the skill set, the company, the governance, everything is driven towards the data updations and data explorations too. Finally, if I get into this kind of problem, how the problem will be and how it is extending my decision. So far in the previous five modules, the last portion of the fifth module is having this problem still. But how to be get rid and how to have a ignorability or how to have a lack of attention towards this problem is only to solve a problem with the symptom of identifying a problem and giving it as a purposeful framework and giving it as a high level treatment towards a problem and making it as a free problem which is always into existence. But slowly, if it is going to be a problem of making it all the essence, it is again giving me a disturbance, again giving me a problem, making all the inclusions and availability is also done with the flow of giving things which are all unnecessary. So, if I need to do this in a mission, I need to understand the cause, effect, treatment, symptom, getting into a conditional testing, everything to be done, and then only it has to start from the beginning. So, this is going to be the end note of this project closure, ethics, and digital management. So, with this, I'll stop for today. In the upcoming classes, we'll be having a case study discussion and a overall glance of the entire five modules. So, since it is going to be the 10th session, in the 11th and 12th session, we'll be having, as per the lesson plan, we'll be having a case study discussion and as well as the consolidation of all the five modules. So, meanwhile, I have given a feedback link which has been posted in the chat box. It is for your kind information. So, people who are all online, kindly fill in the data and try to circulate it among your friends in order to make sure the link is filled by all the attendees and the participants of this course. So with this, I'll stop with the module for today. In the upcoming week, there is on 5th October and 6th October, we'll be having a discussion on the case study. The cases are also prepared. It has been consolidated. Similarly, I'll be posting like a link. So in that link, you'll be having around 15 to 20 case studies, which are all relevant to management actually. So rather than focusing on a specific area, I have given more number of real-time problems which are all happening in corporates. So those real-time problems have been consolidated. It will be posted to you 2 or 3 days before. It is still under updation. By Thursday, probably, or Friday, I'll be posting the link. And that link will be also be updated in the files, class recordings file box. So for your information, have a vision of those case studies too. So please be aware what is the importance of cases and make sure that you're all actively participating in giving a feasible solutions in case studies. And the next session will be on revision, and that revision session will be having a consolidation, open Q&A, and any people can participate and make sure that you are revising and regulating all the modules in a particular class. So with this, I'll stop for today. Any doubts on this? Any doubts on the current session? Fine. Thank you.